Good morning, everyone. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Supervisor Brandow.
Here.
Supervisor Magsic.
Here.
Supervisor Mendez.
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco.
Here.
Chairman Quintero.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Welcome to the Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 meeting of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. We'll begin today's meeting with the invocation and flag salute. The invocation will be led by District 5. Following the invocation, please remain standing for the flag salute.
Here with us today to lead us in the invocation is our Chief Kirk Haynes, Chief Probation Officer. And I, of course, had the pleasure of meeting Chief when I first became supervisor here on the board, and I've always been impressed with his leadership, his dedication, and many of the events that his staff put on. You can always find him right there in the midst of his staff, working right there with him. So I love watching leaders who are willing to do every job that the people under them do. And Chief Haynes is one of those men, and he's going to be leading us today in the invocation.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Magsic, and to all the board. Also, I bring greetings to you from the Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church, where my pastor is Pastor Monty Mitchell. And so I just say thank you again for being here this morning. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you this morning for this day, a day set aside to serve the needs of the people of Fresno County. I pray your will be done as you indwell wisdom to our Board of Supervisors and county officials who are leading the people of Fresno County. Fill these leaders with the understanding they need to make wise and godly decisions on our behalf. We give thanks for your darling Son, our Savior, Christ Jesus. You sent us that perfect example of the servant leader you would have them to become. These servant leaders ask for your spirit of ministry to meet the needs of the people with discernment, providential judgment, and humility. We give thanks for the answered prayer of rain, fallen upon us in your abundance and in your time. In this blessing, we ask for a hedge of protection around the families of Fresno County. For God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. As God commanded Joshua when leadership was key to leading his people, he commanded to be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with you wherever you go. Finally, when Jesus was asked, which is the most important commandment, he responded by saying, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is to love your neighbor as thyself. There is no other greater command than these. Please strengthen us to serve one another in the love you have shown us. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray all these things. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agendas are located on the table at the back of the chamber for anyone wishing to follow along. Before we begin item 1, Clerk, I'd just like to take a few moments. There's an individual with us today for part of the meeting, and I know they'll be leaving before we make comments, so I wanted to acknowledge this person before we begin. And I wanted to congratulate from the Sheriff's Department, Eric Schmidt. Eric, congratulations. You were recently appointed to the post position in Sacramento. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we know you're going to do a good job representing us in the state. So congratulations. We know you're leaving early. Why don't you wait so everybody knows who you are? Okay, that's Eric. Okay, Madam Clerk, item 1.
Item number 1, approve agenda. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, item number 9 on your regular agenda is deleted and it will return at a later date. Item 9 is deleted and will return at a later date.
Okay. Are there any comments from the board members at this time in approving the agenda? Supervisor Mendez?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Okay, we've entertained a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
We now move to item number 2, approve consent agenda item numbers 24 through 58. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Supervisor Mendez wishes to pull item 26, and he would like item 26 to follow item 7 on your regular agenda. He also would like to pull item 53, and he would like that to be heard before the general plan item.
Okay. Any other members of the board? Okay. These matters are routine in nature and usually approved by a single vote. And already we have the 2 items that are pulled. And are there any members of the public that would like an item removed from the discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 3.
We now move to item number 3, under Board of Supervisors, presentation of retirement plaque to Gerald Shiblet, Department of Internal Services, 20 years of service.
We have Sherry Walden and Facility Supervisor Joshua Knowles step forward, make a few comments regarding Gerald Shiblet.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Sherry Walden, Assistant Director of Internal Services, and I'm here to recognize Gerald Shibulhut for his 20 years of service in our Facilities Division. And here to tell you more about him is Joshua Noel, one of our Facilities Supervisors. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is Joshua Noel, Facility Services Supervisor. Gerald Shibulhut's career started in 2002 at the Old Juvenile Hall for under probation he was a stock clerk under them. Promoted in 2004 to supervising stock clerk through probation, then transitioned over to ISD in 2020 when probation wanted us to take care of their logistics and their janitorial services and stuff like that for them. And luckily, we've had the honor to work with them for the last 3 years under facility services, and would like to present Jerry Shibulhut.
Good morning, Board. Thank you. Really don't have much to say except that I really enjoyed and have a great deal of honor and memories of my time with the county, with my previous probation family, and then with my newer ISD family that I finished up with. These are memories that are going to last with me forever. And as I tell fellow friends of mine, they ask me how is it to work for the county, I always say I highly recommend it, because you make friends, you make establishments that will stay with you for the rest of your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of your family you'd like to introduce?
Unfortunately, no, my family could not be here today, so it's just me.
And your county family?
I am county family, and I have county family here today.
Any comments from the board? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Shibulhut. We really appreciate your time with the county. So you started in 2003.
As a supervisor, I started in 2003. I started in 2002 as a regular stock clerk at the Old Juvenile Hall on 10th Street. Was promoted in early 2004 to supervising, and I was actually on the setup team in control of the JJC. I worked closely with them during the establishment and the opening of that facility, too.
Okay. Is there any comments from the public, good or bad? It's all good. Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Shibulhut, somebody's going to say something.
Mr. Chairman, I do have something that I want to say. Kirk Haynes, Chief Probation Officer. On behalf of the Probation Department, I just want to congratulate Jerry for a job well done, for the work that he did for the Probation Department for 17, 18 years. And when I was the director at the JJC, Jerry was our right-hand man when it came to making sure that all the supplies that both our staff and the young people that we serve were needed and all their needs were being met. And it's a huge attribution to his leadership and the work that he did for us. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great retirement. Good job.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes.
Many changes, especially with the new facility. compared to the old hall, obviously. And it's like I tell some of my young workers when they come on board, you know, sometimes they'll have kind of cynical ideas about detention facilities, law enforcement, and I always recommend that they go to a graduation ceremony when we have graduation ceremonies at the hall, and you will see how the work is really done. You will see the fruits of that. And I still recommend that to staff, to take the time and see what it's all about.
Well, thank you very much for all your service with the county. We really appreciate you, and I know a lot of history is leaving with you as well. So would you please step forward and receive your retirement plaque and take a photo with the board? And Chief Haynes, where are you? You come forward as well. Good job, Terry. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sherry, good to see you again.
We now move to item number 4, under Board of Supervisors. Approve and adopt the revised 2023 regular meeting schedule for the Board of Supervisors and direct the clerk of the board to publish the revised 2023 meeting schedule of the Board of Supervisors on the Fresno County website and to advise all county departments of the revised meeting schedule and submission dates for agenda items. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the revised schedule of regular meeting dates for 2023 for the Board of Supervisors the changes are as follows. You are deleting July 11th meeting, and we are adding the July 18th. If your board approves these changes, my office will post the revised meeting calendar, making sure both the public and all county departments are aware of the changes. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any comments from the board? Supervisor Mendez?
What was the reason we changed it?
We had a conflict for one of the supervisors that didn't come about till much later.
Okay.
So the supervisor requested if it was possible, if we could change the dates, and if the board was in agreement to that, he'd be very grateful.
Supervisor Magzik?
Ready to make a motion for approval?
Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion from Supervisor Magzik, second from Supervisor Brandow. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 5, under Chairman Quintero, adopt proclamation to recognize Senior Security Officer Carlos Perez.
Would you please step forward?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Sherry Walden, Assistant Director for Internal Services. It's my pleasure today to introduce you guys to one of our heroes for our department and for the county. Sergeant Carlos Perez last month saved the lives of one of our constituents who was getting services here. With his quick action and thinking, he administered CPR until fire and EMS were able to arrive and resuscitate the gentleman. And here to tell him more about Carlos is one proud chief, Chief Romeo Magbanwa.
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. Assistant Director Walden did share a good amount of description of the incident. Therefore, I will be brief on a little sharing of the words of Sergeant Perez. Not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great. Because greatness is determined by service. Martin Luther King Jr. On that day, Sergeant Perez, you delivered the highest level of service. So on behalf of ISD Security, we say thank you. I personally want to say you inspired me and motivated me to be better, to want to be a better leader for this division. So I say thank you.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Deputy Director and Chief. I'm humbled by the recognition. However, it was a team effort. I'd like to thank my colleagues that were there. We all did it all together. There's one key point I'd like to stress is to everyone to receive some first aid CPR training, because you never know when the time comes where you might need it for a family member, friend, or just a stranger. So, thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Is there any additional comments by the public? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the board? Supervisor Magzik?
So we have the chief, we have you here today, and we have this great event that took place, but I'm mindful of the fact that we have someone whose life you were able to extend, and they had family that are being impacted very positively by that as well. So it's not lost on me, the ripple effect of just one act where you were willing to intervene, where sometimes others may have chosen not to intervene. So thank you for that. You are what is best here in Fresno County, what makes us great, and as our board appreciates employees like you that go above and beyond, so thank you.
Officer Perez, I'd like to read a little bit of the proclamation itself. We're proclaiming it an act of heroism, and therefore be it resolved that the Fresno County Board of Supervisors hereby recognize Officer Carlos Perez for his selflessness and immediate response to a medical emergency suffered by a member of the public. And it was today adopted by the Fresno County Board of Supervisors on this 25th day of March, 2023. Thank you very much for your efforts. We appreciate you, and please come forward and accept your proclamation. Did you have to work with Armando Hyman at all? Oh, my gosh, I feel sorry for you.
Thank you very much.
You should get a proclamation for that, too. One quick comment by Supervisor Magzik.
I may have missed this. Did we vote on approving that proclamation?
No, I was just going to announce we need a motion.
I was too excited.
Well, I was excited too. Mr. Chairman, if you make that motion, I'll second it.
No, well, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve that proclamation.
Second by Supervisor Mendez. All in favor?
Thank you. We now move to item number 6, under Supervisor Magzik, adopt resolution recognizing 15 county employees from the Internal Services Department for their contribution collaboration with contractors in constructing the Juvenile Justice Campus's solar array project.
So Sherry, you're up again. There's a theme today. It seems like all the proclamations and amazing things happening, retirements are in ISD. So this particular resolution, which I have before me today, is about a solar project which was done out at the JJC. And just a little bit of background about this particular project. It was one which didn't happen quickly. I want to just really compliment our staff for being methodical when it came to looking at what was going to be best at this particular site. And I also want to thank the contractor that did the installation, because they worked with us too. They were very interested in making sure that we got maximum saving to investment ratio. And even though I think this is a PPA, a power purchase agreement, a 20-year one, one of the things that our staff was very keen on is day one, we want to make sure that there are savings. We don't want to have savings in year 2 or 3. We don't want to have to wait. And I believe, just going from memory, when we approved this project about 2.5 years ago, I want to say that right out of the gates in year 1, it was going to save like $800,000. And over the full expectancy of this system, it's going to save the county over $20 million. And so I want to just congratulate your team, and we have this resolution, and I have some awards that our Public Works Department has made, and they're getting pretty impressive with the awards that they make. But one for Robert Bash and one for members of your team, but this really goes above and beyond. The money that's going to be saved out here at this campus frees up additional dollars, so we can use those dollars on homeless services, on housing services, Department of Social Services, behavioral health. So I really appreciate the foresight that your department, your team used to bring this project forward. So let me just read the last paragraph here of this resolution. It says, "Now therefore be it resolved that the Fresno County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and honors 15 employees from ISD for their contribution and collaboration with contractors in constructing the JJC 3.8 megawatt solar array project." So, Sherry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nathan. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Sherry Walden, Assistant Director. Nathan stole a lot of my thunder, so I'll try to fill in some blanks. We do want to recognize our staff because without them, this would not have happened. It's a 3.84 megawatt solar energy system. We partnered with Forefront Power to make this happen. It's got 9,000 solar panels that are on that campus. And as Nathan said, it'll save us roughly $20 million. It will also provide over 7 million kilowatt hours of clean, renewable energy each year. We were also awarded in 2022 the Solar Builder CNI Ground Mount Project of the Year. And that was as part of the Solar Builder Project of the Year Awards, which highlights the best projects in the solar industry. And of course, with me today are the staff who made it happen. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Director Brian Burton, who is over facilities and fleet, just to say a couple more things.
Put my glasses on so I can't see you, but I can see what I'm reading. Supervisor, Chairman Quintetto, members of the boards, Brian Burton, Deputy Director of the Internal Services Department. The solar project at the Juvenile Justice Campus began as an idea many years ago. In fact, so long ago as 3 positions ago for me. I remember the beginning of the concept at the location as far back as 2017 and 2018. The large scale of the project and the COVID pandemic provided several delays, but the solar system at the Juvenile Justice Center became operational in March of 2022. And as you referenced, Supervisor Magsig, from day one, it has been provided savings in our electrical cost at the Juvenile Justice Center, which we do perform monthly checks, and in our quarterly reviews with the probation department, we review the solar savings that they're receiving when we review their utility charges at the campus. This project demonstrates how a public-private partnership can come together to deliver value to the taxpayers of Fresno County. Staff here today from the Internal Services Department Facility Service Division demonstrate a dedication of staff members to the success of county departments and the delivery of their services to the public. You'll often find me telling people, no one has ever called one of these people to thank them for the lights turning on when they came to work this morning. In fact, I don't think anyone's ever called to say, the temperature was perfect in my office today. But today we want to thank them for their diligence. Without them, none of our workplaces would really probably be hospitable places to work.
Thank you.
Today we have a few members in person, but many of them, of course, are out maintaining facilities right now. So we want to thank a couple people who are here directly. One is Josh Noel. He's our Facility Services Supervisor at the Juvenile Justice Center. I will say that Josh's knowledge of the campus was key. It's hard to keep track of where electrical lines are and how things were actually built once you're done. And Josh's intimate knowledge of the Juvenile Justice Center, its operations, and its infrastructure was key to the success of this project. Also with us is Maintenance Services Supervisor Dan Miller. Dan runs a large team out there that keeps this facility running every day. His team, one of them here today is Kevin Cooper. When we switched over, you can imagine there's some point where you have to turn the power all the way off in order to hook it up. And I think usually if you did that at your home, they tell you, don't be home for a couple hours. You can't do that at the Juvenile Justice Center. And so there was a lot of time worked by them to ensure that power continued to be supplied from generators and all kinds of various electrical work at this campus. Other members who participated in this momentous effort are Christine Dockweiler, Rodney Maxwell, Dylan Lawhorn, Patrick Ferguson, Doug Dye, Mike Diaz, Kulot Joel, and Dwayne McHugh. As I said, they represent not only our facilities management, our supervisors, and most importantly, our trades positions. Without these staff, this project would not have been a success. Their knowledge of these systems, like I said, they're second to none. Many times you come in and people look at the as-built, and the easiest thing for any of these contractors to do, like Forefront, is say, Josh, what does this mean? And to figure it out. Again, we just want to thank them from their role in supplying this renewable energy source at the Juvenile Justice Center, and we thank them for their role in bringing the county's first solar project online, which is the first of many that are to come, as you guys have approved. Thank you. You guys want to say anything? Nope. They'd rather be out maintaining something than be here.
Okay. Okay, do we have any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the public? Therefore, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve this item. Supervisor Magzig?
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second from Supervisor Mendez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes magnanimously. Thank you.
I think you have to go pick your thing.
Yeah, please come forward and accept special recognition.
Thank you. One of these is for Robert, and then the other one is for, I don't know, the team, so it's kind of. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it'll bend, so you gotta be careful, and it's kind of sharp. The team, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
We did that again.
Thank you.
Trifecta.
Brian?
All right. Yeah, you're good, yeah.
All right.
Item number 7, clerk.
We now move to item number 7 under Supervisor Mendez. Proclaim the week of April 3rd through the 9th, 2023 as National Public Health Week in Fresno County.
Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, so National Public Health Week, I'm gonna ask Dave Lucchini and your whole team.
Yep, we're gonna bring up our managers and some HPO staff, come on up. A lot of,
Joe Price.
DSS should come and BTBH should celebrate.
We know you're not an army of one.
That is for sure. I've learned that a lot in these last
Yeah.
couple of weeks, or last couple of months with all the stuff we're working on with the storm surge and floods and all that, so.
I don't see Vince here either.
Vince is working on some stuff.
All
And
right.
Dan Lynch is on vacation. We finally gave him
That's
some time
right.
off, so.
Got a long way to go.
Yes.
A little vacation before he starts.
And I see you even brought Sebag.
Yep. The guy's very popular. We have to bring him, man. Everybody knows him.
Of course. I know.
You okay if I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Mendez, for sponsoring this item. This is the first time we are actually celebrating National Public Health Week since 2019. And believe it or not, all of us and our managers were not even in our current positions back in 2019. So that's some of the turnover and changes that have been going through our department. And to bring this back is great because it's kind of bringing us back to some normalization after the COVID period. So we're really excited to be back in front of the board to celebrate Public Health Week. This is a time of the year which brings together communities across the United States to recognize and acknowledge the contributions of public health practice. National Public Health Week is a way to thank the agencies, organizations, healthcare providers, educators, and individuals who work to promote, preserve, and protect the health and wellness of all individuals in Fresno County, including those who were there since the onset of the pandemic to those helping with the recent natural disasters. And I once again I think we're very fortunate in this county that we all work together very well and get along. And so I'm very grateful for that. This year's theme is centering and celebrating cultures in health. Our cultures have always shaped our health. Fresno County is a richly diverse community, and this year we celebrate the unique and joyful ways that cultures focus on health. We recognize that there are populations in Fresno County that continue to experience increased disparities in the burden of illness and death. We continue to work on these issues. This year's theme is part of the department's commitment to building a culture of health in which Fresno County residents have a chance at a long and healthy life. For the first time ever, the Public Health Department will be providing a series of week-long educational programs for our public health staff that center on Fresno's health issues. Some of those items that we're going to be focusing on, Dr. Zweifel will be doing something on opioid issues that are impacting Fresno County. We're focusing on some of our rural health projects, and then health equity will be also be highlighted next week. Throughout the week, we'll also highlight all the daily themes that are important to improving our nation's health, such as community, mental health, and accessibility. So with that, I want to thank everyone, thank the board, thank all our other departments, thank our great team for all the work they've done, not only in this past year, for the past several years, through all the crises we've been through.
No other comments?
That's good. You're going to be the only commenter, or?
Oh, I mean, if someone wants to speak,
No, Joe don't want to talk.
Joe, we're going to be here for.
Over the last 3 years, Joe's had to talk a lot, so. So I want to make a motion to approve this, and
Okay, super. Thank you.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? We have a first and a second. Entertain a motion and a second, which we already have, to approve the item.
aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
And then,
Opposed?
before we have them come up, I want to do item 26, and I think David might want to talk about, and this is an adjournment of memory to Melanie
Yes.
Rubikova, a former division manager.
At this time, item 26, under Supervisor Mendez, adjourn in memory of Melanie Kubikova, former division manager of the Health Policy and Wellness Division at the Department of Public Health.
Let me have the family also come up. Thank you very much, Supervisor Mendez, for sponsoring this item. This is a rare thing that, has occurred in our department, the passing away of a very important employee to our department. We continue to mourn the loss of Melanie Rubikova. She passed away Christmas Eve after a year-long battle with a health issue. If you knew Melanie, and some of you did know Melanie, you knew she was a fighter and fought her condition until the end. Melanie started with the Department of Public Health in 2015 as a health educator in the Office of Health Policy and Wellness. In 2018, she was promoted to program manager in that same office. In late 21, Melanie was promoted to be the first division manager for the new created Division of Health Policy and Wellness. As you know, she did a lot of our upstream work. She was very influential to me in Palmaville on working on some of these items. Melanie oversaw several programs and projects in the department. Oh, Bernice, you're almost better be ready, Bernice. From worksite wellness activities, chronic disease programs, tobacco prevention, obesity prevention, oral health, the Community Health Worker Network, health literacy, and health disparities, along with many other initiatives and efforts that, thank you, sir, that she was passionate about. We also can't forget her passion. She did Ride to Work, healthy vending machines, and the Employee Club. In the past, Melanie was also a commissioner in the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and the department continues to work on many of the health projects that she started. The community has lost, and the county family has lost a major advocate when it comes to health and wellness in Fresno County. Health and wellness was a part of her DNA. Melanie leaves behind a husband and 2 children, as well as countless friends, community partners, and her work family. With us today are members of her close-knit family, her spouse Alex, her mom Barbara, her stepdad Commodore, and her sister Alyssa. And then also we have some of their health policy wellness team here, and that worked under her, and of course our managers. So with that, I want to thank you again. And I'll let
Two pictures.
say anything?
Is there any, before
Oh, yeah, well, I'll make a motion.
any
I'll second that.
board members' comments? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the public?
Does the family want to share anything?
I'd just like to thank the board and Dave and all those involved in making this happen and honoring my wife Melanie. Means a lot to the family and I. You're all doing this for us. Appreciate it.
I just want to let you know how dedicated my daughter was to her division of her department of Fresno County Public Health. I'm her mother. She was so dedicated when she went up the ladder in the division. And when I met Dave, the hospice house, he said, when I met your daughter, I noticed she was so smart, but so stubborn for all of her initiatives. And I wanted to let you know she was so dedicated that every morning she ran 3 to 5 miles every single morning to be healthy. She worked out in the gymnasium, began CrossFit training, and lifted up to 200 pounds on her CrossFit training. And she was the most healthy person in our family. And we lost her within 11 months, how severe cancer can be. But I want to tell you that this Department of Health never forgot her. Every week, there was a gift at the door, a thought at the door, food at the door, money at the door. They never, ever forgot her. And she, even to the last month in December, had her county computer on her desk. Even when she couldn't talk anymore, she was texting, she was emailing. She was so dedicated, and she would be so pleased that, Dave, you haven't forgotten her. And Board of Supervisors, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Supervisor Brandel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the family. You coming down today to be a part of today's meeting is really important to all of us. And it's a great way to honor your daughter, your wife, your sister, and Melanie. I didn't know Melanie, but she sounds like a fantastic employee for Fresno County. David, I'm moved by your emotion this morning in honoring Melanie. And I just think it's wonderful to have like a family together here in the county of Fresno. So I appreciate the family, and we know that you've lost a great loved one, and our hearts are with you today. I just wanted you to know that.
And then, David, I would just add to that, I was very pleased to hear from the family of everything you and your department did in one of your employees' time and needs. I think that's great leadership and a compliment to your whole division. So I'm very, very pleased to hear what her mother had to say regarding you and your division.
And I'd just like to say we were very blessed to have her be a Fresno County employee, but also Fresno County resident, because sounds like she really added a spark of life to our community. And we really thank you for sharing her with us. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So you have certificate?
Yeah, I've got them right here. Once you guys go ahead and
Will you
all.
please come forward and accept your certificates?
The whole family.
Melanie's right here, buddy.
Work and,
Family deal.
yeah.
Beautiful words.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, Brandon, we're just squeezing.
I think we're going to need a
Two rows, 2 rows.
Yeah, we need 2 rows, folks.
There we go.
Thank you, Supervisor Mendez, for sponsoring the agenda item.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if you'll indulge me to walk you through two motions that I'll need from you. I was informed moments ago that item 27 should have been deleted. So I would, Mr. Chairman, you would need a motion and second to reconsider opening up item 2, the consent agenda, because item 27 is on consent. So I need a motion and a second to reconsider item 2.
I'd make a motion to reconsider item number 2.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Motion-
I apologize that I got the motion, I didn't get the second. Was that Supervisor Brandow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My hearing isn't as good. So now I would like if you could entertain a motion and second to delete item 27 from your consent.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second to delete item 27 from consent. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you for letting me indulge you in that situation. We now move to item number 8 on your regular agenda under Auditor, Controller, Tax Collector. Conduct first hearing to amend the County of Fresno Master Schedule fees, charges, and recover costs ordinance by amending subsection 3003.4 of section 3000 Tax Collector. Waive the reading of the ordinance and set the second hearing for April 11, 2023. Designate County Council to prepare a fair and adequate summary of the proposed ordinance and direct the clerk of the board to post and publish the required summary in accordance with Government Code section 25124B1.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Gana Monastersky, Accounting Financial.
Can you put the microphone a little bit closer to you? Thank you.
Accounting Financial Chief in Auditor Controller's Office, and I'm here to present this item recommending a revision to master schedule of fees for parties of interest third section from $161 to the actual. And this recommendation will not have any impact on net county costs because actual cost will be added to the minimal bid for purchase of tax defaulted properties. So if there are any questions, I'm here to answer.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the item.
And again, these are just to recover our actual costs, so I'll make a motion to approve this item.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
As mentioned this morning, item 9 was deleted from your agenda. We now move to item number 10. Under the Administrative Office, receive presentation by the Children and Families Commission of Fresno County on the Commission's fiscal year 21-22 financial audit report and staff state annual report per ordinance code section 238.030.
Good morning, Chairman Quintero and members of the board. Thank you for having me today. My name is Fabiola Gonzalez, and I am the Executive Director at First by Fresno County. And before you is our audit report as well as our programmatic annual report for fiscal year 21-22. We are the local First 5 Commission in Fresno County that is focused on the first 5 years of life, the most important in a child's life brain development. We steward the Proposition 10 allocation of funds into our county and administer them to strengthen services and programs that improve the health and well-being of our youngest residents and their families. Based on Fresno County ordinance requirements, we present for your acceptance today both reports. And on January 27th, the county's audit committee reviewed our unmodified clean audit report and moved it to the board for acceptance. Both reports are in your pocket, not in your pocket, they're in your packet. And I will highlight a few key points from each. In fiscal year 21-22, $6.4 million, or 85% of expenditures, were invested into the community through programs and services for approximately 9,600 young children, families, and early childhood professionals across our county. Some examples of First 5's investments in our county include parenting support and education through community-based organizations, partnerships that we have with them. We also invest in developmental screenings for young children, trainings and coaching for early childhood educators to increase the quality of childcare across the county in different types of settings, be it a home-based childcare or a center-based childcare settings. The establishment of a unique partnership between the county's public health nurses and community-based organizations to support a wide range of families to receive home visitation services. Fiscal year 21-22 was still filled with unknowns and challenges for our community partners across the county. You can imagine this was July 2021 through June 2022, so we still had a lot of scares with the pandemic and the Delta. I think the Delta variant was when it picked up in that summer, so we still supported a lot of our agencies through that transition and through the unknowns of how to best support families in need across the county. This concludes my brief overview of the reports presented for acceptance today.
Any comments, questions from the board? Supervisor Mendez?
I don't know, either you can answer it or Brian can. I know the funding mechanism for this has continued to been squeezed down because, this is a great, you guys do great stuff and it's a great, deal, but unfortunately, it was all put in through tobacco tax revenue.
Correct.
And as people continue to use less and less tobacco, so your funding source continues to squeeze down.
Yes, that's correct. And it's a good thing because many public health measures, right, have been put in place in our state, but it's also a bad thing for commissions like us.
Yeah.
So all of us across the state are figuring out, starting to discuss new ways to see how we leverage ourselves into the systems in place, given that we are a declining revenue source from the start. You're right, Supervisor.
Do you remember the amount that the total revenue when you first got on the commission?
I don't remember the exact amount, but it's significantly less. And Fabiola and her staff, to their credit, they have just gotten leaner and meaner.
Yeah.
And they adapt to that. And the irony is, it's funded with the tobacco tax. And as we have seen on TV, lately it's been about fentanyl, but prior to that it was all about less smoking and improving your health. And that's directly cutting the funding source for this program. But as the chairman and representative of this body to that commission, I am proud to say that they've not missed a beat and have provided the services as they've had for over 10 years and have keep doing it today. And I'm sure, having made it through Supervisor Magsig's and Supervisor Quintero's audit committee, that they will vouch this is once again a clean report and simply a matter of protocol to the board.
Supervisor Magzik?
And actually, that's exactly what I was going to do. So when this came to us in January, Supervisor Quintero and myself and the rest of the audit committee, we scrutinized the financial statements, looked at everything, and it did get a clean bill of health from the auditors that were doing the analysis. So this is kind of just I don't want to call it a rubber stamp, but I wanted a formality, yes. So our audit committee,
Come on, yeah.
our audit committee has scrutinized this.
This isn't across the street, yeah.
I will move for approval of this.
And I will second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Supervisor Brandow, any comments? No. Okay. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, this is no motion is required, simply a presentation.
Correct.
Thank you for a very good report. Appreciate it.
We now move on to item number 11. Receive mid-year budget report for fiscal year 22-23 and approve proposed schedule for the recommended budget and adoption of the fiscal year 23-24 budget, which incorporates a recommended budget by June 20th, 2023, with adjustments to this recommended budget to be presented beginning September 11th, 2023.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. Greg Ranke with the Administrative Office. The item before you this morning is to provide the 22-23 mid-year budget status report, take a look at the fiscal outlook for fiscal year 23-24, and set the dates for the fiscal year 23-24 recommended budget to come before your board for approval. Hang on just a second here.
Do we have upgrades in the budget for technology?
Sometimes it's the operator.
Yeah. Well said.
Somebody better go buy new batteries.
Use the wrong finger.
There we go.
Great, thank you. So starting off with the mid-year 2023 mid-year budget review, all departments were asked to provide their estimated actual year-end expenditures and revenue expenditures. Let me start over again. I'm a little bit thrown off here. So departments were asked to provide their estimated year-end actuals for expenditures and revenue. All departments indicated that they will be at or below their budgeted net county cost, except for the Sheriff Department and the Human Services Department. The sheriff is primarily due to higher than budgeted costs for fuel, facilities, and utilities, and the Public Health Department is due to higher than budgeted utilities associated with their animal services facility. Based on the mid-year review, it is estimated there will be the necessary structural fund balance needed for ongoing operational costs for fiscal year 23-24. On this graph shows the estimated actual expenditures and revenues for general fund departments. It is estimated expenditures will come in at approximately 90% of the budget, and revenues will come in at about 89% of budget. Most of the savings in the appropriations has to do with salary savings or vacant positions. Savings in net county cost from general fund departments is estimated to be about $10 million, be over $10 million. Regards to our discretionary revenue, countywide revenues, which is the county's discretionary revenues, are mainly consist of property tax revenue, which is significantly impacted by assessed value growth. Over 80% of our countywide revenues come from property tax. That amounts to over $270 million. We saw tremendous growth in assessed value over the last year of over 8%. Based on a conservative budgeting approach, only 2% of that growth was actually used in this year's budget. This leaves approximately 6% for future budget years. This slide shows the assessed value since 2009. As you can see, we've had good growth since 2014 after recovering from the Great Recession. Typically, growth has ranged from 4 to 5.5%, with the largest coming last year at over 8%. Bradley Burn sales tax, that's the second largest revenue stream making up countywide revenues. We received well over $35 million in Bradley Burn sales tax. For the first 2 quarters of this year, they were very good. They were approximately 9% over actuals from the prior year. This is not expected to continue for the remainder of this year and next fiscal year. It's forecasted that sales tax revenue will remain flat during that period. Continuing on with the fiscal year 23-24 budget outlook, there are expected to see increases in operating costs due to negotiated salary increases, inflationary factors affecting service and supplies, and risk rates. We recently received a proposed cost for the new contract for the healthcare provider for the jail and the juvenile justice campus. For just the jail, the costs are increasing by almost $10 million, or approximately 40% of the previous contract. Negotiating is ongoing for that contract before it'll be brought before your board for approval. If there is a bright spot, retirement rates are decreasing for next year, which will help offset the increases in operating cost. There's approximately a 3% decrease in the general retirement tiers and approximately an 8% decrease in the safety retirement tiers. Based on the estimated available countywide revenues for fiscal year 23-24, there will be sufficient discretionary revenues to cover operating costs funded with net county cost. The next few slides kind of goes through some cautions and concerns for fiscal year 23-24 and beyond. To start, the housing market has cooled, and we expect to see significantly less growth in assessed value for fiscal year 23-24, and possibly minimal or no growth in future years. As anticipated earlier, sales tax is expected to remain flat through fiscal year 23-24. And regarding the state budget, the governor issued his proposed budget for 23-24 in January of this year, and it had a projected shortfall of $22.5 million. Most of these shortfalls were addressed by delaying planned and new spending and preserving existing programs. For the first 8 months of this fiscal year, the revenue projections have come in approximately 4.7 below the projections included in the governor's proposed budget. Based on this trend, that number is likely to increase by the end of the fiscal year. There are some projections out there that it could go up to $40 billion, have a $40 billion deficit. This will have to be addressed in the governor's May revise. This could have impacts on departments that rely heavily on state funding, such as human services departments. Departments in the administrative office will monitor the situation, and any impacts due to the May revise will be included in the recommended budget. Given the anticipated reductions in assessed value, sales tax, and the budget deficit, it is recommended a conservative approach be taken in the usage of countywide revenues for fiscal year 23-24. This approach will put the county in the best position to address any shortfalls beyond fiscal year 23-24. The last slide is regarding the budget development schedule. The proposed budget schedule includes bringing the recommended budget to your board on June 20th and have the final budget hearing start on September 11, 2023. I'd be happy to, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I noticed you didn't have a stop sign in there.
Yeah, no stop, yeah.
You had everything but a stop.
Probably should have had a stop sign, but yeah.
You know, the only positive thing, usually the assessor's office is not really behind, but the way a lot of that stuff ends up working, I think 24, 25 is really when that, when we would hit the, because that deal probably carry on through the 23, 24, you know.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think the projections in that, after talking to the assessor's office, is probably anywhere from 2 to 4% maybe for
Right.
23, 24, but it's really after that.
Right.
In 24, 25 is where we could see no growth or even a negative growth.
Right, and then the thing is, they don't, I don't think you'll see unless we have a severe depression.
Right,
Similar
right.
to the way we did in 2008.
Absolutely, yeah, and it took several years after 2008 to rebound, yeah.
But a lot of it, it's just a clerical deal of getting everything on the roll, and by the time it does, because they're really somewhere between 6 and 8 months behind. That's just,
No, I think.
I mean, that's like the only good news I could find there.
Yeah, no, I think the news is that for fiscal year 23, 24, I think we're in good shape. I think as conservative as we can be in 23, 24 is really going to set us on the path for be in better shape for 24,
Right.
25.
And the only other thing is this, I'll call it flood preparedness going forward, you know, unless we can get, you know, other agencies, DWR, state, and the feds, to pay for some of this, you know, we're gonna have to really watch going forward. We got, you know, a great, you know, system out there. The planning division's doing a hell of a job. And, you know, for this, I'm not gonna call it a quote disaster, but the amount of water that's gonna come down on us.
Yeah.
We still may have to find ways to pay for things and/or leverage them until we can get reimbursed.
Yeah, and that's really already started. We've already been putting out quite a bit of funds for equipment and stuff like that with the hope of being reimbursed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a deal. Told somebody today, I said, some of these deals, we know we need to get them done, but hopefully we're not arguing about how the cows got out,
Right,
even though they got drowned, but still.
yeah.
Supervisor Brandow? No comment? Supervisor Pacheco?
Mr. Renke, I'd have a few comments. Like my colleague Supervisor Mendez, for a minute there, I thought I was in traffic school again with all of your fines.
Well, I'll try to change those up next year.
Yeah, but I would have two questions for you. As mentioned in your presentation, you said there are two departments that are not at the budget and are at a deficit. You mentioned those, you mentioned reasons, but you didn't say how much they are behind. So what is the current deficit of the sheriff's department?
The sheriff, right now, it's about 1.5 to 2,
So sheriff's at 2 million, and
and-
what about public health?
a little over 100,000 is
Oh,
estimated
so
right
that's a
now.
lot more manageable. So the sheriff's department, we may have some issues there going forward then.
Yeah, and we're
Have
looking
you
at.
been in discussions with them?
Yes, we have. We've been working with them on a pretty regular basis to try to look for ways to have them make their budget and look for ways to keep costs down to.
So we're at the midway point. Do you anticipate that number to hold, to increase, or do they have a plan to try and mitigate that and reduce that amount going forward? What is the current thought process and mode of operation?
Yeah, I mean, I can have the sheriff department respond to that, but based on our discussions with them, they're trying to hold their costs down so they keep within that deficit that's currently at 1.5 to 2 million.
Okay, well, I'm sure we can address that if we're going to talk about them at our next meeting. In addition, you said there was a reduction in the retirement rates. Our colleague Supervisor Magsig is an expert in that area. But number one, how does that reduction occur, and what is the benefit to us?
Well, Supervisor Massick could probably do a lot better job than I could, but.
Nathan, if you would, please.
So there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. First of all, whenever there's gains or losses in a single particular year, we tend to smooth that over a 5-year period of time. In addition to that, when we...
That's on our investment portfolio?
That's on the investment side. But in addition to that, we amortize our unfunded liability over 15 years. So one of the things that we're seeing right now begin to slide off our amortization schedule is the losses that we incurred in 2007, 2008. And those were nasty years in the stock market. So as those come off, contribution rates actually fall. And I was going to save my comments. So it's as simple as that. The reason that we're seeing the contribution rates fall is on our amortization schedule, 15-year amortization schedule. The losses that we incurred really in 2007 have fallen off. But I'll share with you some other concerns that I have when you're done. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have about that.
So about how much money does the county provide to the retirement on an annual basis? Do you have a?
It's about $240 million.
240 million. So a small percent up or down could really impact that number.
Well, I'll tell you, this budget year, this fiscal year that we're in, or that we're going to be going into, it's a reduction of over $20 million. So one of the things I was going to talk about, where I want to caution all of you is, while costs are going up in other categories, and we're seeing contribution rates in retirement go down, you can't bank on that long term. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is make sure that you always have a cushion, because this county got itself in trouble years ago because it never really planned long term for contribution rates to go up significantly, and they did from about 2010 forward. So right now, I do believe we're headed into a recession. And even though we're going to see declining contribution rates in the short term, long term, they're going to stabilize. So we can't bank on continued reductions in our retirement contributions.
Okay, yeah, that's good, because in Supervisor Mendez and I, first years on the board, the retirement, the contribution was significantly increased and really hand-tied us into what we can do going forward. Unlike Supervisor Mendez, while the rain is a good thing, especially in your district, as well as all of our districts, our roads are going to be in very much needed repair. I already hear that number could well and be over $8 million to date, and we haven't seen the worst of it yet. So any savings that we have had, Greg, if we don't get reimbursed by the state, all of that money will be used just to maintain the roads that we have, again, with the most significant damage being done in your district, Supervisor Magsig. So, but we have it in every district. That's all my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Magsig.
So to build on Supervisor Pacheco's comments a little bit, so again, with retirement contributions, it's good news that those contributions are going down. I do want to share that last fiscal year in FSERA, we were off, the plan was down by about 9.5%. And just to break even and maintain our plan, we need to be making 6.5% 9.5% a year in interest. So when we missed by 9.5%, that's actually a 15% miss, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, because we have smoothing and because we had some tremendous years prior to that, it's balanced out. But my concern is if we continue to see a negative environment in the stock market and bond market over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, that will show up in increased contribution rates here at the county probably in the next 3 to 4 years. So you never bet long-term on reductions in contribution rates as we make decisions here on the board. Some things that our board has done to try to stabilize rates is we have lowered the discount rate from 7% to 6.5%. What that does is it tries to stabilize contribution rates that this county makes so we can become fully funded, so we don't have that volatility that you saw 10, 11, 12 years ago, and even 8 years ago when you first got on the board. So those are things that we're very focused on at FSERA that I wanted to share with all of you. To build a little bit more on the infrastructure concerns, well, I know Supervisor Pacheco, you mentioned $8 million. I think it's going to be tens of millions of dollars. We just approved a bridge project today, which I think is going to be $3 million alone, and I've got 4 or 5 bridges that need to be replaced in my district. So just in bridge costs, we're looking at, I think we could easily look at $15 million in my district. There's culverts, roads, lots of other infrastructure that needs to be repaired quickly. And then 2, for me, I think we need to, when it all boils down to what's most important here at the county, I think infrastructure is our job, to focus on infrastructure, but also 2, making sure that we keep the community safe. So for me, justice services are going to be important. But that's more than just the sheriff's department. It's the DA's office, it's the public defender, it's the probation department, but making sure that we keep a handle and make sure that we maintain the safety of Fresno County is critical. So I just wanted to share that. Even though right now the budget picture for us, we have a healthy budget. We're not like the state, which is facing up to a $40 billion deficit. We don't face that now, but we need to make sure we remain prudent on this board, and staff needs to be prudent too.
Sounds like we've got a full basket of needs that'll be forthcoming with the roads and law enforcement and the different departments needs to do as much as we can to take care of our county. So I look forward to seeing the budget. Mr. Nerlin, did you want to make any comments?
If I may, just one quick comment, and most of you covered things that I might have mentioned. I think the retirement rates that you're talking about could give us a false sense of security next year, where we look at it and, oh, we're gonna be fine, but it's only for 1 year, and we expect that's gonna go back up. The other challenge we have is these costs, these inflationary costs continue to go up. Even as I was sitting here, I was getting a message that our PG&E costs will probably be going up about 30% more looking to next year for what we need to budget. So, and ironically, with our employees, we're trying to make sure we can still recruit and retain, and that market has not got any less competitive. I expect that may change in a few months. So my message to departments is we need to find operational efficiency. If you're looking to address those things, it needs to be offset by cutting costs in other areas. So we'll be taking a very close look at that going forward. We are well positioned, thanks to how we prepared for this, but the next few years will be critical. So thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve this item.
Motion approved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
We now move to item number 12, under the Administrative Office, adopt resolution terminating the local emergency status related to severe drought.
Erlen?
Yeah, good morning, Chairman. This item in the past has been on consent, extending it now for the time that we've had the severe drought local emergency declaration. Today's action terminates that drought local emergency declaration, but I didn't want to do that on consent without giving an opportunity for your board to speak to the fact that the end of the drought does not mean the end of the issues that we brought to the state, which is we still have issues with lack of water storage capacity, and so the end of the drought doesn't mean the end of those issues. And just wanted to point that out in regular session, and if your board has any comments as well. Thank you.
Comments from the board? Supervisor Mendez, we'll start with
Okay.
you.
Normal is just statistics. In this state, we either don't get enough rain or we get too much. And I think I've said this before on the dais, I think in the last half of the 20th century, the Kings River actually only had one normal year, and that's normal being between 98 and 102% of the average. Had 1 year out of 50. So normal isn't very normal. At least it's 50 to 1. So this is something that happens in this state, and it's always happened in this state. Even the Great Flood of 1863 was preceded by many years of drought in the late 1850s. So that's California.
Supervisor Magzig?
I'll let the experts in ag I yield my time to them.
Supervisor Pacheco?
All I would say is it's off the agenda now, but as Supervisor Mendez said, 12 months from now, we could be putting it right back on. We have enough water for this year, obviously. Hopefully, the state in their management will hold enough for next year. But again, the drought is just a calendar away from happening again. We'll leave it at that.
Supervisor Brandon?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I know our focus is on the drought and the fact that the drought is over, and yet the problems are not over. And the problems, now we have the opposite type of problems. But for me, not a day in this rainy season goes by, which will now include today and tomorrow, not a day goes by that I'm not reminded about the abject failure of the state of California to do anything on behalf of its citizens to ensure water security for our crops, for our people, for our expanding population. And just, I'm reminded with every raindrop how incapable the state of California has been to secure infrastructure for its citizens. And so that's what I think about. And I love the rain, but that's what I think about nowadays when it's raining.
Supervisor Mendez, let me ask you a question. You know pretty much about water.
Yeah.
Do you feel that in checking around with our local water districts that they're doing a good job of storing the water that we're getting?
Well, groundwater storage is a great concept, but there's a time factor.
Right.
You only have a certain amount of time to do it. I know, FID's made quite a few ponds more. Some of them they're kind of tied into the flood control district. I don't think a lot of people, until you have events like this every year, they kind of forget about the Metropolitan Flood Control District. You know, so hopefully now, just looking at the numbers, they're starting to take water to put in these spawning basins, but they're obligated to take stream flows between Pine Flat and Friant, and they have to do that. There is some districts in the south part of the county that stretch into Kings that have been a little lackadaisical about, actually getting their water into their recharge basins.
So like the Fresno County water districts are doing a pretty decent job.
They're
then.
trying. Consolidated's been taking almost 1,000 CSF a day and then putting it in their ponding basins. Really, right now, I think for sub $5 billion, that's a lot less than we spent on high-speed rail.
Yeah.
We could have Temperance Flat Dam and even a smaller Rogers Crossing Dam up above the Pine Flat. A lot of people don't realize that on the Kings, 80% of the water runs into the dam at Pine Flat with no upper dams. It's not like the Friant system where you have, Shaver, Huntington, you got a lot of high lakes. Yeah.
Okay. Answer my question.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the item.
Motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 12.1, under the Administrative Office, adopt resolution proclaiming Emergency Services Director's authority regarding mitigation for 2023 storms.
Mr. Nerlin, you've got a twofer.
Good morning again, Chairman Paul Nerland, your CAO. So the item before you today relates to the current emergency that we're in the middle of, and really the proclamation does two things. Number one, it confirms my authority as your Emergency Services Director that anything we need to do for the safety of residents in this county, that includes regulating flood water flow alterations, if there's anything we need to do to preserve life and safety, it provides that authority during the emergency. And secondarily, any contracts, procurements, materials, goods, anything that we need, this confirms that authority is there. I'm happy to take any questions. I just want to make a final comment that I can't say enough about our emergency services team. I know we've got Terry Mejorado here as well, and under her leadership as well. I can't say enough about it. This group works well together. I think when we've had outside agencies come in, like the Department of Water Resources or others, they have been impressed at how well prepared we are. Right now at our American Avenue landfill, we have a massive amount of sandbags ready and materials that we're ready to deploy. We're also getting large boulders as well, so that we know that there's things coming, that we are ready to go and ready to stage. And I have Tara here as well to answer questions, County Council, as to the proclamation, but I'll take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any comments from the board? Supervisor Pacheco?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question mainly for County Council. When I was reading this, I didn't see an end date. So we're going to do this, give them that authority, but we don't want it to be like the state of California where it goes on forever. So what is the duration?
This is part of the Emergency Services Director abilities within the declared emergency that provides him with those authorities. So it's just a
So I kind of thought he already had that ability anyway, and
He
yet
does.
now
This
we're kind of
clarifies the
formalizing it. So
extent
you wanted
of
to
what they do.
formalize it, so how long are we going to formalize this for, or what is this?
That will depend upon the declaration of emergency the way it's written.
So it's in effect as long as there's an emergency. He's our.
Yeah, I think regardless, we changed the July meeting to the 18th. So we should bring this back on the 18th. Hopefully, we should be
Oh, yeah, I
about
would
out
concur
of
with
it.
that, yeah, because it's between now and probably
Yeah.
the end of June, we'll be having an issue with the flooding.
Right.
And I noticed there were several communities here listed in the foothill and the mountains and all that, and that's fine. But let's remember the most severe communities under duress are the communities of Tranquility, San Joaquin, Mendota, and Fireball. And that's where the greatest threat of flooding will occur for those communities. So as you perform this role and protect public safety at all costs, we want to keep those communities safe. I didn't see them listed in there, is why I specifically bring that up.
Thank you, Supervisor. No, they probably should have been, and really that's where most of our efforts have been, knowing that
Correct.
that's where the water's going, including LiDAR overviews of every channel, where every water's going to go. So they're actually doing that right now.
And I will echo your comments, so regarding Terry and the staff, in speaking with both the mayors, the council members, and the city managers of those communities that I mentioned. To date, they are very pleased with the county's response, with the information they are getting, and I just want to make sure that we continue that because we will be dealing with this through the end of June. Just because the storms stop, the real action will start after that when the snowpack starts to melt. So it's not just when it's raining, it's the after effect will even be more severe than what we're facing today.
It's called the long game. We're in the long game now.
Supervisor, for the record, you may want to make sure that those communities are listed in the minutes that you've mentioned them, and they'll be part of the record for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board?
I got one more.
Yes, Supervisor.
I've been around our emergency services groups since, I think, 2006. Tim Casagrande was in charge of it in those days. They always did the best they could, but we've continued to improve it. We improved it in 17, we improved it in 19, and we're ahead now from where we were then. I mean, we stole you from the state, Terry, that was a great steal. And, but it's, I don't think people realize that that group, you know, even when it's not an immediate threat, they kind of go down, and there's still a planning group that continues to work every day. And believe me, I know I got 5 calls over the weekend from Steve White, so I know everybody's working.
And I appreciate you mentioning that, Supervisor. They're meeting every single day, and one thing I noticed, sometimes in government, you'll see that there's this idea of, well, my jurisdiction ends here, you know, multiple agencies. That doesn't happen with this group. Everybody comes together as a team, and it's not just the county, of course, it's CAL FIRE, it's multiple agencies coming together, and egos are checked at the door, and they enjoy working together, this team. So I can't say enough about how well they work together as a team.
And they're willing to learn. If they don't know something, they learn it quick.
I will say that too, and what I've witnessed, while the county is responsible, CAL FIRE did step up and provided thousands of sandbags to reinforce the levee along the banks of Fireball. And without their effort, Fireball and the county, I don't think would have had enough resources or physical power to do that. So again, appreciate everything that CAL FIRE and our Public Works Department have done, but I would concur with your sentiments that they all are working together, and I think the residents greatly appreciate that.
And I just want to say one other thing. I think I'd mentioned it in briefing that, you know, we're more than 5 times bigger than Kings County. And our group is, they only have 4 people in that group. And they were very paralyzed. I think this is only the beginning of their 3rd week of their system even operating. And this is one of the reasons we're kind of doing this, is just to refine what we're doing and not make some of the, I call it, paralysis mistakes that they made over there.
Any other comments from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve. I mean, you probably need public comment, but.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Supervisor Mendez made a motion.
Yep.
We have a second from.
Question, and that is to include the communities that Brian
obviously.
mentioned, and also to come back by July 15th, which you
Correct.
talked about.
July 18th.
Yeah. All right,
And the
thank you.
cities that I heard were Tranquility, San Joaquin, Fireball, and Mendota?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
We now move to item number 13 under Internal Services. Conduct first hearing to amend the master schedule of fees, charges, and recover costs, section 3800, general services, where new subsection 3814, downtown parking rate is added. Waive reading of the ordinance in its entirety and set the second hearing for April 11, 2023. Designate county council to prepare a fair and adequate summary of the proposed ordinance and direct the clerk of the board to post and publish the required summary in accordance with Government Code Section 25124B1.
Mr. Bash.
Good morning, Chair, board members. Robert Bash, Director of Internal Services, Chief Information Officer. This master schedule of fees amendment item is to establish a new rate to charge departments for downtown parking. This new rate is the first step to getting us to our end goal of having parking available for all county-associated vehicles downtown. This rate represents the fees necessary to fully recover expected costs, provide parking to both staff vehicles and departmental vehicles in the downtown area. This is a change to our current protocol where staff typically have to either find their own spaces, use a contract the county has through payroll deductions, or wait for and then pay the county for the limited county-owned spaces that are available downtown. The different look that we are using here is that the facilities ISF is leasing additional downtown parking to supply to our tenants, and they will in turn pay the rate established here today based upon their needs for their employees and county vehicles. This will be a phased approach as we still need to finalize contracts and amendments to secure the remaining parking spaces needed. We will start with transferring the responsibility for the current assigned spaces. then distribute the unused inventory we have available to us, and then move on to new inventory as it becomes available. We contemplate distributing lot access through the individual departments to best keep the needed inventory of spaces as current as possible. We will also be doing this distribution with an eye toward proximity to the buildings wherever inventory allows. We will be returning to your board in the near future with amendments to current parking contracts and new contracts to increase the inventory that we have available for use, because current inventory will not handle what is necessary. We're here and available for any questions or comments.
Any comments from the board? Supervisor Pacheco?
Chairman, I'll lead off. I just think as we improved over the years of the working conditions and environment of our employees, I think this is a good step, that we don't forget the people that remain here downtown. As we've gone to the new Pelco campus, that's great. It's been a great benefit to our employees, and I think this is a step that we don't forget those that are still here and home. We have a large downtown presence. This is a good step. I still believe that we should be acquiring property in the near facility and building a very large property structure so that we don't have to rely on contracts, but again, rely on ourselves. And I want to publicly state that for the record, that hopefully here in the near future, you will be coming back to this board, that you've located a piece of property, that we can build our own property or parking structure, that we don't have to go out and contract with other agencies.
Supervisor Brandow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I agree with Supervisor Pacheco, and I want to thank Robert and Paul and everybody on your teams that have brought us to this point. Since the time that I've been a supervisor, it's amazing that how many times that I've heard from Fresno County employees that this is a big deal to them, this parking situation. Sometimes, we get caught up thinking about all the big stuff at the 30,000 foot view, but right down here, this little detail is very valuable to our employees. So it's taken some time, but I thank you guys for working through that, and now we're at this point today where we're going to be able to tell our employees that they don't have to pay for their own parking. And I also want to thank all of the department heads that have brought this up and let me know that it's important to the people that work for you. So thank you to everyone.
Yes, downtown parking has always been an issue, and we still have some more steps to go. This is the first step, but we're hopeful we'll be back before your board soon with those amendments and additional contracts for the remaining inventory we need. We have a lot of people downtown.
Yep.
I think we're pretty much the largest tenant and land owner downtown. So it's going to be a patchwork of things that we need to put together, but we're very close, and this is going to happen this time. So,
Supervisor Mendez?
Long time coming. I'm glad you guys figured this out. It was kind of an interesting deal when because everybody has to pay for parking. We pay for parking. And, when I first seen that I looked at it and go, you gotta be kidding me. Our employees have to pay for parking? Of course, I didn't say it that graciously, but still, I couldn't believe it. And this is something for, going into the 9th year, me and Brian have wanted this, to happen. It finally happened. And we need to get our own structure here in town. Another one.
Okay. Supervisor Magzik?
I echo all of your comments. Thank you for actually making them, so, yeah.
Well, we appreciate your brevity today, yeah. So. But yeah, I just think the employees should know that too, that we're all paying for parking.
Yeah.
Even those up here, our CAO, all their staff, all of our staff, we're all paying for parking. And like Supervisor Mendez, when I received my first paycheck, I was amazed. In the oldest building in the county, we still have to pay for the parking of the infrastructure, and that's just simply amazing in my opinion. But again, I know there's a lot going on with the courthouse and thing, and I hope when all the dust settles that we do locate a piece of property, that we're going to build a very nice parking structure and make it even better for our people in close proximity to where they work. So you've done a great job, Robert, and just keep the momentum going.
Thank you.
Mr. Nerland, at this time, I think we've got a great opportunity. We've been awarded the federal dollars for a new courthouse, and I think the timing is good to maybe even start looking at creating a master plan for this area that we have around here and what uses we may have that's existing. And the old Del Webb building across the street, that's all county, and part of the tenants in there have moved out, which is the district attorney's office. So I don't know how much left the departments are there as far as the number of employees. But I think that would make a wonderful area to just knock the whole thing down and build your parking structure there. That way they can go everywhere they want.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chairman. I will say, in that building, it's filled up with other departments, but to your point, that conversation with the courts has already started. So, and I think there is a partnership there that together, the goal that Supervisor Pacheco just mentioned could happen much easier. So that conversation has started. And if I may, I just, in addition to your comments about internal services, in my video, I mentioned our auditor controller and county council, but I failed to mention our human resources department. So I just wanted to call out our human resources department, the labor relations team, who are also a key part of this. So if I failed to mention that, I wanted to make sure to do that here today.
What I'd like to ask for is that maybe we receive quarterly reports, each of the supervisors, on how the plan or what's going on with the planning of this of the area, that we can all start looking at it and also put our comments into it. But I agree with my colleagues that timing is of the essence.
Yes, and to clarify, you're asking for quarterly updates on a kind of a master plan that includes what's happening with the courthouse, but also the search for a more permanent county-owned parking structure. But happy to do that, so.
Yeah, with
quarterly.
emphasis on parking.
Yep, will do.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve. Okay, we have motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bash.
We now move to item number 14, under probation, approve amendment to the salary resolution, adding one deputy probation officer, 123, to the probation org 3432, effective April 3rd, 2023.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and to all board members. Kirk Haynes, Chief Probation Officer for Fresno County. This item this morning is a salary resolution amendment to add one deputy probation officer position to participate in the DUI treatment court in collaboration with the Fresno County Superior Court. Fresno County has a high number of DUI impaired cases, and to prevent recidivism, the court provides treatment rather than incarceration for defendants in these cases. And so the DUI treatment court program takes a minimum of 12 months to complete. And so back in September of 2022, the Second Amendment to this agreement with the court, with the California Superior Court, was approved by the State Department of Office of Traffic Safety, so that we could expand the availability of another probation officer to be added to this program. There's no additional net county costs to this position being funded, since this was approved by your board back in September. So there would be no additional net county costs to this program. And that's the end of my report. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay, any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
We have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Great presentation, Mr. Haynes.
Wait all this time, Chief. We got done, that's it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is the time where we would take up item 53, as mentioned this morning. This item was pulled by Supervisor Mendez. Under Public Works and Planning, approve and authorize chairman to execute the following amendments to exclusive service area provider program amendments. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-564 with Allied Waste Services of North America. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-565 with Granite Solid Waste Incorporated. Amendment 3 to agreement 17-566 with Mid-Valley Disposal. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-567 with Marymount Sanitation Incorporated. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-568 with Orange Avenue Disposal Incorporated. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-569 with Piñas Disposal Incorporated. Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-571 with USA Waste of California Incorporated. And Amendment 3 to agreement number 17-572 with Western Solid Waste.
Mr. Jimenez.
Okay, all I'm gonna ask for is that added into this, that anybody living in a rural area can opt out, period.
That is correct.
Yes.
Can opt out. Yeah. And
Period.
Yes.
I want that added into this deal, because it's a very complicated deal on who can opt in and opt out.
Correct. Yeah, they can opt out of service entirely. Our unincorporated communities generally that are included in this requirement for the organic waste recovery include Lanier, Carruthers. I think it's Easton is the other one I'm
Right.
thinking. But generally in the rural areas outside of the communities, they're generally exempt from this requirement.
But not always exempt.
Not always
So,
exempt. So
Yeah, so this would make them exempt, the language that I want in there. That they can still take service, but they don't have to have the green can.
Well, make sure I
No,
understand.
that's the, not opt out of their, they can opt out of their service, period.
Yeah.
Because we don't have you have to have, pickup.
Yeah.
But this is, if you're in a rural area, not in a, whether you're not covered by CSD, you're out on the farm.
Yes.
You don't
and
have to have a green can.
That is correct, because
Yeah.
they are exempted.
Right.
That is correct.
And I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
all rural people.
May I ask, what is the definition of rural there? I mean,
So it's a state definition, and it's a 75 person per mile, is that correct? Square mile, density. So if you exceed 75 people per square mile, you're included. If you don't, then you're excluded. And maybe I can illustrate that a little bit easier.
And it's a little more complicated than that, because they use
It is.
census.
So the areas here that are in yellow are the areas that are included, which is primarily the metropolitan area. Like I mentioned, we do also include Lanier, Carruthers, and Easton. But these green and purple areas, those are the areas that are excluded from the requirements of the organic green waste. And it's a 5-year exemption that the state has granted. After 5 years, they will tell us whether we continue to be exempted from that requirement or whether it becomes mandatory. So generally, all the rural areas, both on the west and east side, are
Yeah,
excluded.
and the reason I'm doing this, a lot of this waste never ends up in anyway, even food waste.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that, live in the rural areas, they have chickens, they feed
Yeah,
them.
they feed them, yeah. Yeah, hogs, yeah,
So they don't have any.
right. Right.
And this is still the way the state, the Supreme Soviet in Sacramento does. They take the decision away from the locals.
Yeah.
And say, we mandate you to do this,
And
whether
what's-
it makes any sense or not.
Yeah, we're straddled with the requirement. The other thing that we're doing is we're still having conversations with the state to see if there's any flexibility, especially for our disadvantaged communities. And then we're also looking at potential funding sources that would help subsidize those communities that are subject to this requirement. So we are definitely looking at ways to ease the burden.
Yeah. But I don't want one of the haulers to come back and say, no, those people still have to have a green can, whether they want it or not.
Well, there will, if I could, Supervisor, the map you show us there is what's required in terms of the coverage under the state law, correct?
Correct. The yellow areas are the areas that are subjected to having the waste recovery.
And without a further waiver inside those yellow areas, we can't
No,
vary
those
that.
are mandatory. That's correct. And the rural areas, I think, is what the focus of supervisors' comments. And when I interpret rural areas, I mean areas outside of these communities, the metropolitan area, with the exception of those specific communities that I mentioned.
And that's the green areas we're
The
talking.
green and the purple areas are excluded.
No, what I'm saying is their maps doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Okay. Nothing like a lawyer to make it more muddy, so.
Well, it's, the difficulty is that it appears the supervisor's request is for something other than what the state areas are defined as. We're not really with power to change that. This is a state delegated responsibility.
Well, they still need them, they still need us to put the sheep in the trailer. What I'm saying is, we're not gonna put the sheep in the trailer.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Jimenez, thank you for clarifying Supervisor Mendez's question. Do you want to, do you need to go back into the presentation?
No.
or-
No.
This is just our
Okay.
amendment with our waste haulers agreements to implement this program. So staff recommends approval.
Okay. So do we have any comments from?
Yeah,
official
anyway,
co-
that's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Supervisor Magzik?
Well, just, and I heard a second, so just general comment that I have. So again, when the state does pass laws and then we've got to create the ability here at the local level to kind of implement, we do have some flexibility with that. And what I heard is just, we're giving the option for individuals in these additional areas that could be touched by the yellow, but still, how we define rural, they're part of the rural areas, they can opt out if they choose to do so. So,
Right.
that being the case, I'm prepared to support that.
Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion. That
Right,
was
they-
you,
they can-
Supervisor Mendez?
So,
We have one more from the public.
Gloria Hernandez, Mothers Helping Mothers. We represent the rural area mothers, and one of the things I hear here is not putting linings on top of trucks. I mean, I don't know if you want to be driving behind that truck that's full of alfalfa and possible other junk. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to encourage people to have a green container. That's the bottom line, is we're having a lot of trouble. We should be teaching people instead of taking away the ability to encourage them to do it by ordering them to do it, like they order all of us in the city to do it. It doesn't make sense. You need to look at the future. What are your grandchildren going to be doing? What about the lawsuit if somebody's behind it and gets hit by a rock because somebody didn't cover that truck or somebody didn't put the green stuff in the green box? I really think you need to start opening up your eyes and thinking about the future.
call the question.
We have a motion and a second to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 15, under Public Works and Planning. Consider and adopt resolution accepting the 2022 General Plan Annual Progress Report and authorize the Department of Public Works and Planning to submit the 2022 Annual Progress Report to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and the California Department of Housing and Community Development.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Bernardi Mendez, Department of Public Works and Planning. Approval of the recommended action would accept the 2022 General Plan Annual Report, as well as authorize submittal of the report to the state prior to the April 1st deadline. On February 23rd, your Planning Commission considered the report, also considered comments provided by a speaker, Mr. Radley Reep, and staff's response to those comments and concerns. After consideration, your commission voted unanimously to recommend to your board acceptance of it, as well as submittal to the state. Following the Planning Commission hearing on March 19th, Mr. Reep also submitted an additional letter to staff, basically raising the same issues that were raised previously. These comments and requests for information have been provided either in this agenda item, report, or previous agenda items and reports,
or by separate correspondence to either him or the League of Women Voters. So the focus of the report is really just to summarize what staff has done in terms of general plan implementation over the last year. And I would just point out that in terms of those accomplishments, staff has held over 20 community meetings related to its general plan. Your board has authorized over $27 million in ARPA funds for infrastructure improvements within the county's unincorporated communities. The department has secured approximately $10 million in grants for infrastructure improvements within those same communities. And your board approved a number of amendments related to employee and farm worker housing to try to facilitate affordability of housing within Fresno County. So staff would recommend approval of the recommended action, and we're available to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll start with Supervisor Brandow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bernard, could you kind of give me a working timeline of the rest of the process for our general plan?
Sure. So right now we are actually reviewing what's called a screen check of our draft EIR. As you know, we've been working on a number of amendments. Most recently, we've been working with the State Attorney General's office, but also simultaneously working with CAL FIRE in development of our safety element, which must be approved by the State Fire Marshal. So all of that effort is kind of coming to fruition. We're anticipating release of our general plan, our updated zoning ordinance, background report, and program EIR in April next month. So there's been a lot of effort to get to this point. And so with that comes a 60-day review period. So basically we're on target for probably fall of this year to start holding those public hearings before our Planning Commission and then your board for ultimate adoption. And I will tell you simultaneously, we're working on the update of our housing element, which has a deadline of December of this year. So we're planning for how to meet our obligations for various categories, income categories in terms of housing. So those have been two pretty large efforts that we've been working on for the last couple of years.
So the plan will be sent out to the public and everybody interested for review. There's already been 22 meetings or so about the plan, but it will be sent out in April. And the public and other agencies and groups will be able to comment for 60 days, is that correct? Okay.
And we will be holding community meetings to receive those comments. We're kind of shifting from comments related to the general plan now to comments related to our environmental impact report, but we'll continue to receive any type of comments we receive.
Okay.
And then once that's complete, then we will have the opportunity to respond to every one of those comments. So there may be adjustments and amendments to our EIR, which will then produce a final EIR, and that's what will be considered before the Planning Commission and then your board.
And that's in the fall?
Yeah. So 60 days, I get that. So if it was even on the last day of April, be the last day of June, basically, would be 60 days would be pretty much up. And then we have to, we want to respond to these comments, right? And so how much time to respond, or?
I don't know, to be honest with you, until we know the scope. I say fall. It could be sooner.
Okay.
If we go through the process and we have very little comments to respond to, then
Okay.
we would proceed directly to the commission and your board. I'm hedging a little bit because I suspect that this is going to attract a lot of attention and comments.
Okay. And then right off the top of your head, or, I know you think about this all the time, what are some of the biggest policy changes that you're seeing in the general plan, the way the county works now?
Probably there is a requirement that each jurisdiction, city and county, addresses environmental justice. And so that's going to be a new element to our general plan. So there'll be a host of policies that are directed at dealing with impacts to environmental justice communities from an air quality standpoint, from noise, from aesthetics, to infrastructure, and to public health. I will say that general plans generally have dealt with land use, environmental resource issues, transportation. The general plan will now straddle to public health in the form of that environmental justice policy. Outreach is a big issue, a component of environmental justice, and how we communicate and how we encourage public participation in the land use process. Infrastructure improvements within those communities is going to be a priority. So there's going to be a suite of new policies that will be focused on that mandate.
Okay, so that work is kind of new to general plans across the state of California. I mean, is that environmental component it's required to produce it, but is it super detailed what the state expects, or they kind of leave things up to us on how to address it?
So there are categories in which we have to address. How we address them is up to us. But I will tell you that the state Attorney General's office has been very interested in that, and we've had multiple meetings with staff to talk about our policies and our implementation programs. So we've received a lot of feedback. It's been a positive working relationship with the state on that effort. So it will be specific enough to give enough detail in terms of programs as to what we're trying to achieve and how we achieve that.
Okay. My final question is, on some of this development north of the city of Fresno, we've seen challenges by infrastructure not being put in at the right time and so forth. Will the general plan kind of create a clearer strategy for growth inside of Fresno County, outside of our cities and unincorporated areas?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that are at play. Your board has weighed in on some economic development opportunities. So we are adding some programs that direct us to further and continue to look at those areas for economic growth. With that will come, obviously, an evaluation of infrastructure needs. And then, so that's included. With our housing element, we are going to be looking for the first time, certainly in my career here, of having to actually rezone parcels to meet our low and very low income categories. That's never happened. And so that's something new that we're going to be challenged with. Typically, our policies have been to direct growth to the cities and focus on preservation of agricultural resources. That's shifting now because of the state's mandates to accommodate more housing and plan for more housing within Fresno County.
That makes sense. Thanks, Bernard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Magzig.
My questions are for County Council. So as you've reviewed this particular item, this 2022 General Plan Annual Progress Report, you believe that it's met the standards that the state has laid out for us to accomplish?
We do.
Okay. And also, too, I know that there have been some new state laws that have passed over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, and you believe that all the processes and efforts that we've had to reach out to the community also have met those requirements?
Yeah, the staff has done an excellent job, and I think to the extent there's been some, concerns in the community to engage with the Attorney General on a lot of these new things that are going into the new general plan, I think it's really been exemplary on the part of the PWP staff.
All right, thank you.
And I will say that because of the number of new legislations that have passed, we are rolling in all of that into our general plan review process. So I think you'll hear the speaker ask a question about, is our general plan compliant? Well, it is in that we meet all the state requirements in terms of our environmental review process, issues related to air quality. We work very closely with the Air District. But there are certain mandates that were required that you will see reflected in our general plan review. They're not reflected in our current general plan, but it doesn't mean that we're not compliant with state law. And that's our mandate. We have to comply. So there's been a lot of effort. I think I heard, I was at a conference last week that talked about over 2,300 new pieces of legislation being introduced for this legislative session. Every year there are new laws relative to housing, transportation, to environmental protection that it is difficult at best to try to make sure that we are always up to date and compliant. So our general plan will be that to a certain point, but recognize that because of new legislations that will pass this year, we will likely come back, even if we adopt that general plan review process later this year, we're probably going to have to come back and update it to remain compliant.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, is there any comments from the public?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Radley Reep, and I reside at 557 West Escalon in Clovis. Despite what you were told by county council and your staff, I'd like you to pay close attention because I do believe I am correct and it needs your attention. We all know that there's an air quality problem in Fresno County. We've heard of kids going to hospitals, and we know that some people have chronic conditions. Do you know that there is on the general plan right now a policy requiring your county to meet with all the cities in the county and with the air district to develop standards for mitigating air quality impacts in this county? Are you aware of that? It's been on the books for 20 years, and the county has never implemented it. Do you also happen to know that there's a general plan program to ensure that that's done? That's been on the books for 20 years, and it's never been implemented. Do you also know that there is in the general plan, in the EIR for the 2000 EIR, and in state law, a requirement that you monitor that situation to make sure it's done? You don't have a monitoring program. For 20 years, you've done nothing about it. This is the state of the general plan, and this is what I'm asking you to indicate in your annual report, that you have this tremendous problem. Are you also aware that there's a state law called AB 170? It was enacted in 2003, which required every city and county within the air district to develop new goals, strategies for improving air quality in this county. That went into effect in 2009. You've been out of compliance for 10 years. Don't tell me that you have been compliant and trying to be compliant. That's not the case. The problem is that your annual progress report reflects none of this. It's hidden from the public. You're silent on it. So what I'm asking you today is to go ahead and revise the annual progress report to reflect the actual state of the implementation of the general plan. If you do not do that, you are not following through on your responsibilities under the general plan and under state law. I must tell you that I'm extremely frustrated that I've been before you for years and years and years asking you to do this. One of the reasons why we do have problems in this county, and the reasons we have problems with the general plan, is because it's not evident, because you won't recognize it and won't disclose it. So that's my ask for you today. In regard to the deadline to get this done, April the 1st, in the past, you've turned in annual progress reports in May, June, and September with absolutely no repercussions. So don't let anybody fool you about that. Also, I'd like you to enter into the record for this particular item the letter that Mr. Jimenez mentioned. Thank you so much. Now, do you have any questions of me?
Thank you, Mr. Reep. Okay. That closes this particular agenda item. With that, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve this item.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 16 under Public Works and Planning, adopt plans and specifications for contract 22-05-C, Dry Creek Bridge Replacement on Burro Valley Road, federal project number BRLS-5942245. Receive verbal report on the bid opening and award to the bidder with the lowest responsive bid, and make a determination in accordance with Administrative Policy 34 that unusual or extraordinary circumstances exist that allow retroactive sole source procurement of bridge components based on the board's express findings that specification by brand or trade name of the bridge components is consistent with the provisions of Public Contract Code Section 3400C2 and 3400C3, and authorize staff to incorporate the sole source components in the design and construction of the Dry Creek Bridge replacement on Burro Valley Road.
Do I have to do anything to turn that to project? Very good, thank you. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Mr. Chairman, Joe Harrell, Supervising Engineer with Public Works and Planning. This item is to report the bid results for and award the Dry Creek Bridge replacement on Burro Valley Road. It is being presented as a verbal report due to the limitations on the amount of time to do the work in the creek channel. This item is also requesting a determination to allow retroactive sole source procurement of bridge components for the Dry Creek Bridge replacement construction in order to support timely replacement of damaged components. On March 20th, 23. The department received 5 bids, and the bidders and their respective bid amounts are being projected on the screens. The lowest bid of $4,864,640 was $277,932, or 5.4% lower than the engineer's estimate. The staff recommends that the board approve recommendation action 1 to award to AG Construction in the amount of $5,075,640 and recommend the action 2 as stated in the agenda item. Furthermore, staff requests that the board allow the chairman to execute change orders up to $420,000 or 8.2% of the contracted amount due to the project being staged in an active creek in a high water flow year. There's a higher than typical probability of change orders. Just for note, the Director of Public Works and Planning has already been delegated the authority to execute change orders for up to a statutory limit of $210,000 or 4.1% of the contract amount. It is requested that the clerk of the board include the information projected on the screens in the record of today's proceedings. I'm here for any questions that the board has. This concludes my presentation.
Any comments from the board?
What exactly are we doing?
Replacing a bridge, sir.
What's that?
Replacing a bridge.
Yeah, I know that,
Oh.
but I have like, did everybody get all the information in their packet?
Well, this information that's up on the screen, that wasn't in there because I think it was just put together like right now. So the Public Works is moving at light speed. I believe this is one of the bridges that was damaged with some of the high flows within the last couple of months. So, I mean, there's a number of projects, this being one of them, where they're trying to move quickly. And I think if we're getting some federal funds to do the work on.
That's correct.
on
That's
this
correct.
bridge.
Yeah, we have a season that we have to basically work with the Flood Protection Board.
Yeah, no
on.
shit.
And then on top of the fact that we're getting huge water flows and everything else, so we're trying to make sure that the contractor's able to work in the season that they're intended to. We can work with the Flood Protection Board on allowances and other things.
None of this is
Yeah.
my question.
Yes, but the reason why is
Yeah.
because we held the bid just shortly ago, and it was not in time to get into your packet.
Okay. I know that's kind of unusual, but.
No, we've done this on occasion. We don't do this regularly, so I totally
Now,
understand
was
that.
this bridge damaged from the last incident, or it's been damaged from other previous incidents?
The bridge is 100 years old to start with, and so it's an additive
This
process.
is basically, we need to replace it, period,
Correct.
because of age.
Yes, sir.
And it would have been condemned anyway.
Well, hopefully we get to it before then.
Okay. My question's answered.
Very good.
Supervisor Magzi?
Oh, I'm good.
Did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve when it's time, yeah.
Okay. Any comments from the public?
I'm Jenica Geddert, Senior Staff Analyst with Public Works. There's a typo in that we were very rushed. The bid opening was last week. There's a typo on the screen. The amount to award should be the amount of the bid listed above. It's actually the 4.8 million number. And so the recommended action as displayed, that's including the change orders for the estimated cost. So apologies.
So my question for a motion then is, how do you need us to make a motion for this to work for you?
Motion for the low bidder award itself of 4.864 million and change, and then add the additional change order request from my authorities back to the motion itself, and we'll work with Bernice and correct the record as for the action itself going in front of you today.
So with the change orders, does that amount to the $5,075,000 amount?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, a motion has been made and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 17, Board of Supervisor Committee reports and comments.
Okay. Any committee reports or board comments? Supervisor Mendez, you okay?
I'll go last. You let everybody else
Okay,
Well, I would just start off by a few comments. I'm working with Public Works and Planning. We're going to launch a pilot program for trash pickup, working with the city of Mendota. If we're successful, this may be something that we can go countywide with to help alleviate some of the trash throughout the county, and just stay tuned.
excellent. Thank you. Supervisor Magzig?
So I just, thank you, Brian, for that. I know in my district, too, there's lots of trash that's being strewn out in the rural parts of eastern Fresno County and western Fresno County, so anything that we can do to alleviate that is greatly appreciated. I just want to announce that tomorrow the Veterans Memorial District in Clovis is having a National Vietnam War Veteran Day from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm going to have one of my staff members at this event. We've got a certificate we're going to be presenting, but I just wanted to make the public aware that in Clovis at the Veterans Memorial District, they continue to hold events, and here's a great one to really celebrate the contributions of those individuals who were impacted and served in the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Supervisor Mendez?
You know, just moving forward, we're gonna have to have a lot of political cooperation to, once the Kings gets fully, completely in flood controlled south, north and south, to make sure we protect some of our communities, that they actually route the full amount south that by federal act they're supposed to. So maybe coming to some of you to help us, you know, with the political pull with the Army Corps of Engineers. So it's gonna take all of us to do it, so.
Thank you, Supervisor. Item number 18.
Item number 18, board appointments.
Okay,
Selma Cemetery Board, reappoint Alan Langstrat to a new term.
Anything, Nathan?
Supervisor Magzig, Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Leticia Fernandez to the Housing and Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee representing the Cantua Creek area for a term expiring January 2025.
That's it?
That's it, sir.
Thank you. Now I'd like to reappoint James Sponsler to the Historical Landmarks and Records Advisory Committee.
I'll move for those appointments.
We have motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 19, public presentations.
Okay.
This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on this agenda.
Okay. Just wanted to remind the presenters that you're limited to 3 minutes per person, no more than 15 minutes total per topic.
On the Yokuts Valley name change, and I'm very upset about that because I pay taxes. And I was looking at your value statement on your webpage, and my concern is that you're not meeting it because you're supposed to be good stewards of this land, and it's supposed to be of this money that we, the taxpayers, pay. And you're supposed to do it for everybody, not just a certain population. And so I'm very concerned that when the presentation was done, there was word change. Because I was at the meeting, the public meeting that took place out there, and I had been told there was a survey was going to be mailed, and it was going to be mailed to people living in the area. Later on, at this meeting here, I came and I kept hearing the word ballot. And I was offended because when I hear ballot, I would imagine that it'd be a legal document process that's being handled by our electoral county clerk, and this was not handled by the clerk. It was handled by a certain person up there. And so I'm very concerned that we're using taxpayers' monies not to do it in the greatest long-term benefit for the community as a whole. I'm very concerned that your commitment of achieving specified outcomes is specific only to certain people and not the whole community or the whole county residents. I'm very concerned that you keep saying that the art of possible thinking, but here we are going backwards and harming populations and people like myself by hearing that nasty word over and over. So I would ask you to really think back and go back to your goal statement and saying you respect and embrace ethnic and cultural diversity. You supposedly acknowledge the rich culture and ethnic communities of our region, and that you will include all communities in decision-making process and will embrace the inclusion in key positions and committees in our county. I would think that that would also not only go to the positions and committees, but also issues that are affecting us in our county. So I'm very offended when you use the word ballot instead of survey. Words matter to me. Words matter not only to me, but to a lot of my people. So I just want you to reconsider not using taxpayers' money for a specific group of people and not the whole county as a whole. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Linda Tubach. I'm a resident of the recently renamed Yokuts Valley, 93675. And I'm very happy that my community's name is no longer a derogatory slur. I would challenge each one of you men to go home and refer to the women in your lives by that name and see how they react. And I'm outraged that you would even consider filing a lawsuit to oppose the new mandate to rename our community, AB 2022. I am appalled that County Council would even recommend that that's possible. I just don't get it. And I don't understand why you men don't understand this either. Furthermore, I was very happy to see that Caltrans did remove the Squaw Valley signs, highway signs from our community, shortly after the January decision by the federal government to uphold our state government's recommendation to rename our community Yokuts Valley. That was great. Then I was very happy to see that county workers followed suit and removed the Welcome to Squaw Valley sign on county property in front of our Bear Mountain Library, only to then see, a couple of days later, our supervisor, Nathan Magzig, apparently ordered that the sign be replaced, which is another violation of AB 2022, because when a sign is removed, it cannot be replaced by the old name. So I want to know what's wrong with our county council that you can't advise Mr. Magzeg correctly about the scope of this law. We have so many needs in this county that you would even consider wasting money on a lawsuit like this is outrageous to me. And then Mr. Magzeg has the nerve to
Ma'am,
say that
excuse me.
this, what?
Address the board and not an individual.
Yes, okay, I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I'm sorry about this. I understand that you consider this to be a failure of the state somehow to provide adequate local input on the name. And I just want you to know that there have been extensive opportunities for public input. I'm sure County Council has advised you all of this. Furthermore, we could have had more public input and information had our supervisors been willing to sponsor a community meeting on the subject in our community, which we have asked for years. But no, our supervisor would not hold a meeting on something that he disagreed with, and that's been a public statement, and we have only you to blame for why there wasn't more dialogue in our community.
Thank you.
Good morning, thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Salcantero and Brian Pacheco for voting against this lawsuit, the proposed lawsuit, or whatever you're doing. Heard about it in the paper. I just wanted to bring this up This is from your budget report. Housing market has cooled. No growth in future years, minimal growth. Sales tax down. I guess you go on to say other things in this. Caution. Projected citywide, there will be conservative approach. Budget could be revenue shortfalls in future budget years. This is your own document. So I urge you not to spend our public tax dollars on this lawsuit. We have a lot of needs out there. You know, I give people rides from the warming centers in the city, and we took a few folks out to Sanger the other day, and it was closed already. So I had 4 people in my truck with nowhere to go and looking for a warming center. I don't know why it was closed early. So those kind of services, you know, you could expand your outreach teams to the unhoused. You could expand shelter services. There's very few shelters, if any, in the whole county. I know of 3 deaths at least that happened in the orchards or on the streets, the dirt roads of Fresno County, one in Reedley and several other areas around here. So the needs are great. Let's not waste dollars on tax dollars. To say that there was no opportunity for public comment is disingenuous. I mean, we, of course, have asked for a meeting for a long time. I actually have the minutes from the California Board of Geographic Names, where only a few of us weighed in, and we were all members of Rename S Valley. These are the actual minutes. So, you know, there was a 60-day comment period. I brought it up here when there was a lot of people from Yokuts Valley here. I brought that up. I brought it up at the community meeting. I told people to weigh in, write whatever name you want. Nobody commented. We had a petition that I circulated with 200 names on it for Yokuts Valley. The other side had a petition to keep the name Squaw Valley. Of course, they couldn't submit that because that wasn't an option. So I urge you to quit misleading people about this, Mr. Magzig. Let's try to not...
Address the board, please. Thank you.
Yes, board members. Let's try not to divide the community up there. And let's not spend upwards, who knows, thousands of millions of dollars. I talked to the ACLU, our attorneys on this. Could be a lot of money. Thank you. Brown Act requirements were minimally met. It was the intent of the Brown Act, I believe, was violated. Thank you.
Thanks for this time, Supervisors. I'm in full agreement with Gloria and Linda and Bob. I think it's really important for us to recognize that the democratic processes have been going forward. The AB 2022 was passed unanimously in the legislature. It was passed unanimously by both the Assembly and the Senate of California. It was signed into law on September 23rd by Governor Newsom. This was all according to the democratic processes that we are part of, not a Supreme Soviet, not some kind of, cabal of people who are making decisions behind closed doors, but it was done openly and with great deliberation. So I would urge the board to reconsider this ill-thought-through, unnecessary, expensive lawsuit.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no one else for public comment. County Council, Mr. Cedarborg, will we have anything to report out, or can we adjourn following closed session?
Mr. Chairman, we do not anticipate any items to report out following closed session, so if the board chooses, they may adjourn following closed session.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, we just want to make sure that there's no public comment for closed session items.
On closed session items.
Okay. Is there any public comment for closed session?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. We have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Hey, Brian. I think the majority of, hell no. I've known those folks for years. Invocation will be led by District 5. Following the invocation, please remain standing for the flag salute.
Here with us today to lead us in the invocation is our Chief Kirk Haynes, Chief Probation Officer, and